Hey, good evening. Uh, I'm Bishop Johnny Banks, Senior Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. Knock at Midnight is located at 400 West 76th Street and Suite 206. You can reach us at A Knock at Midnight at 773-488-2960, or you can just simply stop by our office. We're on the second floor. Come on up. If you need some assistance with whatever services or whatever situations that you're going on, and we can give you some assistance. We work well. We do family advocacy. We have youth after out of school time programming, as well as we do some truancy work for the Chicago Board of Education, and a myriad of other services. And one of those services is what I'm talking about tonight, which is the Know Your Rights campaign, the Community Justice Initiative, as we continue to put out information that the First Defense Legal Aid is assisting us with this project, along with Alderman Sawyer of the 6th Ward. And we're just putting out information all over the 6th Ward primarily, trying to help people to understand that you have rights if you are arrested, what you can do, how that you can secure free representation to get you some help so that you can try to get out of the situation you may find yourself in. And a lot of that is simply we do workshops, we do one-on-one conversations. We out in the streets at the Red Line, putting up posters and signs in the 6th Ward, and just trying to talk to people and get them to understand that there is help, so that if you are arrested, and you can call 1-800-4-LAW-REP, 1-800-4-LAW-REP, and a representative from the First Defense Legal Aid will come. They will send a lawyer, and the lawyer will come and represent you, see you within that first hour, because you have the right to make a phone call. And many of us make phone calls home. Even in some situations, you may get an opportunity to make more than one phone call. One of those phone calls should be 1-800-4-LAW-REP to get you some reputation, some free representation. This is not a public defender. This is a pro bono lawyer who will work in your interest to try to assist you with whatever you may have been arrested for, to see what the charges are and how they can help you either meet the bond obligations or simply represent you in court if you don't receive a bond. And so these are some of the things that we'll be talking about in the coming weeks that we're talking about now, but I really want to pivot a little bit and go into the current events in our city with the increase in shootings all across the country. We have to ask for God's grace for the families of the lives lost in the mass shooting in Buffalo. We find our way in Chicago to the mass shooting in Jackson Park, the mass shooting in the back of the yards. And we are faced with a daunting task to understand what is the signs of the times. What is going on in our communities, what is going on in our cities, what is going on in our nation. That violence is the call of the day. It is very perplexing. It's all over the country. Many of us are affected, but I wanted to buoy my conversation with a word from Dr. Martin Luther King. As we think about it now, it's very prophetic. And Dr. King says that an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If you can't get justice in Inglewood, there will be no justice in Edgewater. If we can't get no justice in Lawndale, there will be no justice in Lincoln Park. Where there is no justice, there shall be no peace. Those seem like cliches, but those are prophetic things that people really need to understand. You cannot allow the people to starve in places in Chicago, and others are living off the riches and the fat of the land, and don't think that those same elements that you are starving is not going to come to your neighborhood to try to eat or try to better themselves, whether that's work opportunities or whether there's other opportunities that are not exactly what you would call lawful. There are more problems that we are having because of the injustice. But it's a funny thing how justice is blind, but faith can see. And African American people and black and brown people have been living years by faith. It's faith that has gotten us this far. But some people, faith has run out. They can no longer live by faith alone. They can't live by every word that proceeds of the mouth of God. They have gotten to the point where enough is enough. And they try to take matters into their own hands. And when that happens and when that occurs, we see what the media calls is an uptick or a surge in violence and a surge in murder and a surge in killings. But how soon we forget. In the late 70s, early 80s, I believe, if I'm correct, we had more killing then than we do now. The numbers bear witness to that truth. And so, but what we have that we're dealing with is injustice. And injustice governs itself. You cannot govern injustice. The people that see that the injustices and the trauma that comes from the injustice are enacted upon people are the same people that then have to deal with the injustice when it boils over from Washington Park and it goes into other parts of the city, Marquette Park, and it goes from Jackson Park all the way over into Mount Greenwood and places in Bridgeport and other places where people have been trying to keep violence out, but you can't condone it in one place and have no acceptance for it when it comes to yours. And that's what we're struggling with. And injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so we see that the threats of justice are all over the country. The hate, the racism, the bigotry, the poverty, the abuse, the ignorance, the neglect, all of these things are now at the boiling point. And many of us are walking around acting brand new. But some of us might remember that many of us used to get permission from our parents to go to the movie theaters downtown, to go to the restaurants downtown, to go to Treasure Island and enjoy ourselves. And we would stay all day, and we would take the elevated train or the green line or the red line, wherever we was living. We would take it back to our neighborhoods. The same thing is happening now, except that a lot of the children, since the injustices are so deep, they're not asking for permission. They're just taking off and meeting up and going where they want to go and doing what they want to do, and they'll deal with the consequence because their behavior is, whatever the consequences is, so be it. That's what injustice does. It makes the consequences inconsequential. They don't mean anything. And so we have a body of children, a body of young adults, a body of people who are sick of the injustice. Low-paying, low-wage jobs. Trying to go to school and learn, but the learning institution is constantly interrupted by what's happening in the streets or what's happening in the world. It is now in the streets. The schools are no longer a bastion of safety. They're no longer a hamlet of harmlessness. They're a place where people are just trying to get by and get through with the day and figure out can they get from the school to their next destination safely without being a victim of a drive-by or some other mode of insanity that is occurring, and we keep acting brand new like we don't know what this is. You know, when I was a young child, I remember the gangs marching down the street in their TAMs and in their gear in large numbers. That was a message too. But you had a choice whether you got involved or whether you didn't get involved. I mean, today, a lot of our children are just struggling just trying to make it from one post to the next. And we can't give them a pass. We can't say it's okay. The behavior is not okay. Even my nephew, 13 years old, when the shooting occurred in Grant Park, he was standing right there. Matter of fact, he was on the television. His father noticed him running with the crowd. When he went out, when he called his mom wanted to ask his mom, do you know where your son is? She said she didn't know. He said he's on TV running from a shooting. Our parents, we have to do a little better when it comes to knowing where our children are. We have to do a little better when it comes to giving them permission or admonishing them or disciplining them or talking with them or discouraging them from being in places that may be a boiling point for something or a jump off point for something going wrong. It is still on the parent. It is not the responsibility alone of our children. It's still on, I guess you would call it a collective responsibility to make a difference and do something different, not for just yourself, but other people around you, because it's a lot. It's a lot going on. The mass arrest. So I'm talking to the children, because it's like if you're going to be in these situations, what are your rights? If you are arrested, what rights do you have when you have been detained? Who do you call? That stuff is real. And so as we see these things happening, it's initiatives like the Know Your Rights campaign, the Community Adjustment Initiative, where people, if you're not going to abide by the law, at least you need to know your rights inside of it, so that you don't become caught up, incriminate yourself, and cause more problems for yourself. Because many of our young people, and I talk to them and I pose them and ask them questions, and many of them truly believe that nothing is going to happen to them. You know, hey, they stay in the youth detention centers for a few days, a few weeks, or pass through one of the community police districts. Doesn't mean much. They'll be home in a day or two, and that's what they feel, and that's what they believe, and generally that's what happens. But there are many times when that may be an exception to that, and you need to know your rights. What am I to do? It's amazing that last year we had 797 homicides in the city of Chicago, and as of today, that was a killing today, we had 205 homicides through the 16th, which is the 17th of May. And so we know that there's going to be an uptick in the violence, and an uptick real soon. It's generally when the weather breaks that we all know how the numbers go up from probably June all the way up until through September. Those numbers are going to skyrocket. They're going to trend upward. They're going to spiral upward. And we got to really know and understand, because, you know, the first person to die in Chicago, Susan Torres, 29 years old, shot and killed. And we have an unknown, which Susan was first, and there's a person that they even know, it was just happened, so they don't even have the information on him yet, but that he was killed on 51st Street. So the numbers bear witness that they are real. What we are facing with is not a figment of our imagination. We have to do something different. Listen, I'm Johnny Banks. I'm with a knock at midnight. Our call-in number, our number at our office is 773-488-2960. Or if you want to send an email, just send it to akambanks@msn.com. If you need some training, some workshop, people to talk with your children, discuss things with your family, come to your block club, put some trainings together on trauma, violence prevention, prevention education, you name it, relationships, in a healthy environment, things of that nature. There's not enough education. There's not enough educational opportunities. We try to provide those educational opportunities so you can understand how to navigate these turbulent waters for your family, help your children be able to go out and discriminately travel to and fro, where they can leave home safely and get back safely, understand what they need to do and how they need to do it. Because the violence seems so random most of the time. But in essence, it's not. Social media makes it so most of it is not random. People know where each other are, what each other are doing. Everything is posted. Everything is DM'd. It's there, whether it's Twitter, you name it. Facebook, the information travels fast, and subsequently, people follow that information and they gather and do what they need to do, and sometimes it precipitates violence. Over in Jackson Park recently, a number of people shot, mass shooting. Of groups of people having a disagreement, and a mass shooting breaks out. The mass shooting in back of the yards community, 5 or 6 people shot, and people struggling to make sense out of it, people struggling to live with it, living in communities, living in households and places where the violence is unbelievable. And be that as it may, how do we recapture our city, recapture our vibrance, recapture the things that we need so that we can have some harmony and some peace as we try to live together? Well, for a couple of things are going to have to happen. Gun laws are going to have to change. The gun lobby is going to have to change, because the weaponry that is being used does not come from the neighborhood gun shop. It's coming from places that we will probably never know, because many of us, we don't know anything about gun trafficking. But it is amazing that the weapons the young people are using, that's as part of the criminality of Chicago and part of the criminality of this country. And it's everywhere. People are stockpiling weapons in their homes. People are stockpiling weapons in their businesses. And these stockpiles are sometimes finding their way into the community. And so there's so many ways for this to go on. But it goes back to what I believe is the injustices that is directed towards certain cultures and certain races of people. And they have been subjected to this stuff for so long that it's not having a reverberation or rebirth effect, and the injustice is now threatening justice. And we was told this, we were warned about this. You cannot continue to see that people stay in poverty, and all you got for them is a handout. All you got for them is a subsidy. All you got for them is a grant or a loan that they're talking about can't pay back, but they cannot live in adequate housing and have adequate air conditioning. We had three people that just died, seniors, that just died from a lack of something as simple as having air conditioning. And it's really sad. It's really a sad state of affairs, but you cannot continue to expect people to live in poverty. And poverty produces abuse, ignorance, and neglect. It produces mental health issues. It produces substance abuse. It produces violence. All of this stems from poverty. And until there's a just distribution of wealth in America, we're not going to turn this around. And we got to go to the sources of it and stop playing about it. No, I don't care how many politicians we elect. I don't care how many people come into public office. I don't care how many private citizens think that they can make a difference by being in this elected seat or that elected seat. Yes, we need elected people. I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But this has to become where the conversation of reparations have to be on steroids. It have to ratchet it up 100 times, where it's not just talking about reparations, repairing the harm that's been done, but it's talking about equality. And everybody wants to have gender equality, they want racial equality, but we don't want economic equality. And if you can print money for Ukraine, if you can print money for student loans, if you can print money for other kinds of loans and grants and this and that, you can print money for equality financially. And right now, we just don't have financial equity, and we see the results of it. People are tired of being poor. The have-nots have had enough. You know, and we keep wanting to be what we see. That is a misnomer in America. In America, you can't be what you see. You can act like you are what you see, but you can't be wealthy in America because people don't want you wealthy because they can't make money off of you. Money is made off of poverty, abuse, ignorance, and neglect. Money is made off of poverty, abuse, ignorance, and neglect. But it's poverty creates poor parity. So all the poor people, since they are on the same level, they're struggling trying to be something in a situation that they can't change. It makes no sense. It's the most painful reality that I deal with. There's not enough people that's trying to just help people. People are hurting and they can't get any help. And we say, why do those people, and generally you're talking about black and brown people, why they act the way they do? If you have never been poor, you don't know the pain of being poor. If you've never been in poverty, you don't know the pain of being poverty. If you've never went without, you don't know the pain of doing without. These are the problems that we're having. This is the call of the day. Many people that work a job every day are the working poor. They are not making enough money without it being subsidized with SNAP or TANF or some other subsidy, or being in situations where they can't make it on their own, so they have to come together with people and flood their homes with multiple families with multiple issues to try to make it. That's real. That's what we're struggling with. That's what has to be abated in our communities, is how do we deal with poverty. It has been a platform for every method and every kind of election that you can count on. Poverty, and poverty is still here. It's been going on well over 400 years. Well over 400 years. Where black people, and I can only speak for my people, abject poverty, strangling poverty. That we're not going to turn it around unless we take that out the equation. Those things have to get done. We have to call on people. And this is where the citizenry has to come in effect. You got to call on people. The minimum wage, it took 4 years for the minimum wage to become $15. Which was maybe a year or two ago, in Illinois, it got up to $15. Well, what do you think happened in the years before it got to 15, in the 6 to 8 years afterwards, as inflation has skyrocketed, but the cost of living has skyrocketed, but wages have remained the same? That's called poverty. That's poverty. And we have to deal with that. So when we're talking about knowing your rights, and we're talking about advocating for yourself and advocating for your children and advocating for your community, we have to advocate that the people are released from poverty. That people really, that's why you can't get nobody to work. Companies all around the country are doing something that they only did for athletes. Companies are paying signing bonuses to prospective employees because they can't find employees. This is almost going all the way back to the 70s, was the last time you saw this many help wanted signs? There's help wanted signs everywhere. And back in the 70s, people were dealing with freedom and black power. And we come to 2021, 2022, people are dealing with freedom and black power. Same thing. We gotta get it. We're not gonna be able to slow the rapid rise in murder and homicide, whether it's in Chicago or New York or LA, until we deal with the poverty that is suffocating the life out of our communities. Homelessness is everywhere. And so I struggle, you all, if we're going to be who we're supposed to be, and we help our fellow man to be what they're supposed to be, then we have to protect their right to life, liberty, and to pursue happiness. And you can't pursue happiness when you can't afford bus fare. You can't pursue happiness when you wake up every day hungry with nothing to eat. That does not make sense. You can't pursue it when you have mental health issues that you can't get them treated because all of the mental health centers have been closed. That lends itself to a homicide or a suicide or something that continues to impact our communities. Trust me when I tell you, think about what I'm saying. An injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The injustice of poverty, the purposeful rendering of people being poor. Poverty. Not giving people a chance to live the way they want to live, where they want to live, and how they want to live, because of the false realities that are placed on what it means to be successful in America. You don't have to. School is a beautiful thing. You don't have to go to school if you're given an opportunity. But we have so many false realities around the basic requirements of being able to do this. It doesn't take a degree to work in a factory. It doesn't take a degree to work in McDonald's. It takes willingness and an open mind. But people have been led to believe that you have to have these things, and people are putting this stuff in place to keep people from being able to live without living in poverty. And this is our struggle. It has not changed in years. It is not going to go anywhere. We have to get people to really know what their rights are, so when it comes to them being impacted by being detained at the police station, they need to know their rights. When it comes to the social realities of this world, they need to know their rights. They have a right to a lawyer. They have a right to free representation from the First Defense Legal Aid, who will come and give you the representation. All you can do is dial 1-800-4-LAW-REP. They have a right as a citizen to pursue life, to pursue freedom, and to pursue happiness. And nobody worries about you trying to be free. Nobody worries about you trying to have a life. Anybody worried about you being free, but you are not going to be happy, because you cannot be happy in poverty. So I don't care how free you think you are. Poverty nullifies life, liberty. Poverty nullifies it. You cannot have life and you cannot have liberty without being happy. Because what does it mean to be free and you unhappy? What does it mean to have life but you can't have it more abundantly? So you're not having an abundant life because of the vestiges of poverty that permeate your existence, and they permeate everything that you do. Every breath you take is taken in poverty. That instead of eating food that's healthy, you have to eat the grapes of wrath. You have to live in the communities where you're scared of the people that look just like you, afraid, waiting on something to happen, waiting on every day, hoping that it's a new day, because you don't have the things that you need to get the man's that's perpetrating the crime, to get them up off you. Listen, this time goes real fast. This show goes much too fast. My name is Minister Johnny Banks. I'm the Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight, located at 400 West 76th Street in Suite 206. I spend a lot of my days and a lot of my time trying to help people, specifically African American people, with poverty and how to live through it, how to find and be successful in their endeavors. It takes hard work. It takes commitment to purpose. It takes humbling yourself and having some acceptance for where you at, but not accepting the fact that you got to stay there. I would just hope that anybody that's listening to me that took the time to view, that you would call me at 773-488-2960. If there's anything that we can do at A Knock at Midnight to give you some assistance, to help you along the way, we'll be more than happy to work with you. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in a program. Just come by, let us see what we can do to help you and help your family, because we gotta extend ourselves, because poverty is taking lives. And what we see as the results of this taking lives is violence, it's ignorance, abuse, and neglect. Listen, I've had a wonderful show. Meet me here next week, same time, same channel.